Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome back for some. And I'd like to call this meeting to order. This meeting of the Board of Chiropractic Examiners is being held at the Southern California University of Health Sciences Legacy Hall located at 16200 Amber Valley Drive, Whittier, California 90304. The date is Friday, October 20th, 2023, and the time is 9 a.m. The board's paramount responsibility is to protect the health, welfare, and safety of the public through licensure, education, engagement, and enforcement in chiropractic care. Members of the public may address the board during the public comment session. Public comments will also be taken on agenda items at the time the item is heard and prior to the board taking any action on said items. Those who would like to provide public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. Unless in the discretion of the board circumstances require a longer period. Members of the public will not be permitted to yield their allotted time to other members of the public to make comments. Individuals may appear before the board to discuss items not on today's agenda. However, the board may not discuss or take action on these items except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. Please be aware that this meeting is being recorded. Please turn off and silence all cell phones. And we will now take the roll call. Mr. Sweet, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Dr. Paris?
Present.
Dr. Adams?
Present.
Mr. Sweet is present. Ms. Cruz?
Present.
Dr. Daniels?
Present.
And Dr. Sandino
Is excused.
is excused.
Yes. Thank you. We have a quorum. We're taking the agenda items out of order, so we will go to agenda item number 2, the petition hearing for early termination or modification of probation for Dr. Totino. And I will turn it over to Administrative Law Judge Perlman to facilitate the proceeding.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. So we are on the record, as has been said. It is October 20th, 2023. We are now at 9:02 a.m. and we are in Whittier in person. We are before the Board of Chiropractic Examiners in the matter of the petition for early termination or modification of probation of Andrew Totino, A-N-D-R-E-W, T-U-T-I-N-O, Doctor of Chiropractic, license number DC 20427. BCE case number AC 2020-1254, and it is OAH case number 2023-090-772. I'm Lori Perlman, L-A-U-R-I-E-P-E-A-R-L-M-A-N. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I've been assigned to preside over this board matter this morning. As noted, we do have a quorum. We have normally 6 board members, 5 are present, 1 is excused. And so at this time, I will take the appearance of counsel. If you would state and spell your name for the record, I'll start first with our Deputy Attorney General.
Good morning, Your Honor. Thank you. My name is Lisa Miller, Deputy Attorney General, and I'm appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Government Code 11522.
Thank you so much, Ms. Miller. And then I will take appearances from counsel for petitioner.
Good morning, Your Honor. Ginger Kelly on behalf of petitioner, K-E-L-L-E-Y.
Good morning to you, Ms. Kelly. And with you, I see we have Dr. Totino.
Yes, he's present.
Good morning. So I do have a question for you before we get underway. There was a little bit confusion as I looked at the record as to whether you were asking for an early termination of probation or if you're asking for modification. Specifically, I believe it was condition number 18. Can you clarify for the board your position?
Yes, we are asking for an early termination of probation, and if that's found to not be warranted, in the alternative, a modification of Dr. Totino's probation.
Okay, if you could speak up a little bit, it's kind of a large room, so just so we have a good record. Thank you. And if there is modification, was it specifically condition 18 or are there other things you're seeking to modify?
It was specifically condition 18.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Kelly. All right. So my first question is whether you want to make opening statements this morning. So let me ask Ms. Miller, did you intend to make an opening?
Your Honor, not so much an opening statement as just a summary of the case.
Okay, and Ms. Kelly, did you wish to make an opening?
I did.
Okay, so let me start though with Ms. Miller to make the statement that she wanted to. And we also have an exhibit that I believe we should mark for identification. So when you're ready to do that, we'll take that underway.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor, I would like to please mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1, the petition application of petitioner Dr. Tutino and the accompanying documents.
Yes, I will mark that as Exhibit 1 for identification. And that consists of, could you just give us a sense of what's in Exhibit 1?
Yes, Your Honor. So that consists of the petition application, the supporting documents prepared by Dr. Tutino and his counsel, as well as a copy of the accusation and the stipulated settlement from the underlying case.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Kelly, did you have any objection to Exhibit 1 coming into evidence?
I do not.
Okay, Exhibit 1 is admitted at this time. And let me just ask our court reporter, are you having any difficulty hearing? Good. If you do at any point, let us know. Same for anyone else. And if anyone needs a break at some point, let us know as well. Okay. Any statement you want to make, please begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, I would like to make a summary of the case, starting with the issuance of the license. So the board issued license number DC 20427 to petitioner Andrew Tutino on January 1st of 1990. The license will expire on November 30th of 2024 unless it's renewed. The board filed accusation number AC 2020-1254 on October 12th of 2020. The accusation alleged 8 causes for discipline, specifically gross negligence, repeated negligence, incompetence, excessive treatment, endangering the health, welfare, and safety of the public, dishonesty, false representation, and fraud or misrepresentation. The factual allegations set forth in the accusation pertain to petitioner's treatment of patient AT, which took place over a 14-month period, and pertain to 3 separate incidents in which patient AT had sustained injuries. After patient AT filed a complaint, the board's experts reviewed the patient records for patient AT and determined that petitioner failed to review patient AT's medical records, failed to speak to previous providers or collaborate with previous providers, despite billing for evaluations that normally included that level of review. The board's expert also found evidence of upcoding, double billing, and also evidence that petitioner performed evaluation and management services at a much higher frequency than warranted, resulting in excessive treatments. Following the filing of the accusation, petitioner entered into a stipulated settlement with the board, which was adopted on September 15th of 2021 and effective October 15th of that same year. Under the terms of the settlement, petitioner's license was revoked with revocation stayed, and he was placed on probation for 5 years with terms and conditions. The conditions included reimbursement of board costs of $14,154.25, passing the California Chiropractic Law Examination, passing the Special Purposes Examination for Chiropractic, and passing the Ethics and Boundaries Examination, as well as submitting quarterly billing monitor reports. On August 29th of 2022, petitioner's probation was tolled, and pursuant to the petition application filed by petitioner, it was due to a surgery and resulting disability. As we have heard from counsel, petitioner is requesting modification, either early termination of probation or modification of term number 18. And petitioner also requests permission to work in a pro bono setting. And with that, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Okay, I'll turn things over now to Ms. Kelly to go forward on the petition.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning, board members. Thank you for taking the time to hear our petition this morning. For more than 2 years, Dr. Andrew Tutino has been vigilant about completing the terms of his probation. He's completed everything possible, and he's been nothing short of a model probationer. However, due to a spinal injury and a surgery in April of 2022, and the finding that he's permanently disabled, he's currently prevented from treating any patients with chiropractic care. He sold his practice of 33 years, and since he's no longer treating patients, he can no longer bill patients. As was pointed out, this order of discipline involves this treatment of a single patient over a 2-year period at 18 months. It's based on the treatment and the billings associated with it, which the board found to be grossly negligent and unprofessional. Dr. Totino entered into a stipulation very, very early in the proceedings, and he has expressed deep regret and remorse for his actions. But despite the devastating loss of his career last year, he has steadfastly honored the remainder of his agreement, and he's developed a plan recently in order to give back to the community. In the 2 years since being placed on probation, he submitted all of his quarterly reports in a timely manner. He met with probation as directed. He submitted his 36 hours of continuing education. He's paid all costs in the excess of $14,000. He passed the CCLE examination. He's passed the SPEC examination and the ethics and boundary examination. He has no prior history of discipline. He's never been prosecuted for anything either related or unrelated to this action. At the time Dr. Totino entered into this stipulation, he was able and intended to fully comply with all terms of the agreement and the stipulation. But unforeseen intervening events have made that impossible. We submit that the events and the circumstances here are extraordinary and warrant early termination of probation. Because he can no longer treat patients, he can no longer ever bill patients. He can no longer bill a patient for any insurance purposes. So we would also submit that he poses no danger to the public. Most notably, he upgraded his professional skills by undertaking to study and test and qualify as a certified medical examiner for the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's National Registry. And this is a certified medical examination for doctors of chiropractic granted by the United States Department of Transportation. As I'm sure you all know, this is a very rigorous course. It requires an understanding of the DOT's standards in driving and other subjects, various subjects of cardiology, neurology, psychology, and various other musculoskeletal. Dr. Totino completed the program in March of 2023, and then he took and passed the test and got his certificate in August of 2023. He received his National Registry certificate in August of 2023, which we submitted in our packet. Although he can't engage in a traditional chiropractic practice of medicine due to his physical constraints, he wants to continue to use his knowledge, be of service teaching, consulting, and otherwise acting as a CME for the Department of Transportation. But for this, he would need his chiropractic license. If the board determines that early termination is unwarranted, we would submit to you that equity would require the board to modify the terms of his probation so he can successfully complete it, whether that's in additional terms of community service. We would request that the Department of Transportation suffice as the practice requirement, but any condition that you would believe is appropriate, Dr. Totino, if physically able, will comply with. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. And did you intend to have Dr. Totino testify as well?
Yes,
Okay. Did you want to do that at this time?
I do.
Okay, so I'll swear you in as a witness, Dr. Totino. If you'll raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you so much. You can begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you state your name, please?
Sure. My name is Dr. Andrew Totino.
And how long have you been in practice?
I was licensed in January of 1990, and I opened a practice in 1991 in Lemon Grove, San Diego, and I was in that location for 33 years.
And have you ever had any prior history of discipline other than the incident case?
No, I have not.
Have you ever had any lawsuits or any criminal charges or anything ever filed against you?
Never.
Okay. Let's talk about the original circumstances of the discipline. Can you explain in your own words the disciplinary action and what occurred?
Yes. It was a complicated matter that happened that as two simultaneous personal injury accidents that happened at the same time. But what happened was, in this particular instance, the patient had two separate attorneys at the same time. So we had two different law firms with two different personal injury cases going on at the same time. I did not give it the attention it needed. I should have been more vigilant, more on top of what was going on with the billing, who was being billed, what was happening. It was a gross mistake. That's really what happened here. I'm very sorry that it happened. I can't tell you guys, I shouldn't say you guys, you professionals. I'm really hurt by it. I've always prided myself on being a champion chiropractor. I've always held myself up to be a great man, a great person, and this hurt a lot.
So you are truly remorseful.
I'm very bad.
Chiropractic, how important is it for you to continue to practice?
It's extremely important. I love my profession. I love what I've done. I love serving the community. I'm a people person. I love to help people. It's who I am. As you guys all know, I shouldn't say you guys, you professionals all know, to be a chiropractor for decades, you have to love it. It's not something you just, it's something who we become. And not to do that is it's devastating. Devastating.
What happened, what event happened that caused your permanent disability?
Being an active treating chiropractor for decades, your lower back starts to hurt you, parts of your body starts to hurt you. So you start to shift your body weight, use upper body extremity, try to shift it. And I was treating a patient, and I was in a side posture maneuver, and I slide the patient over. And as you know, some patients are bigger than others, and you reach over, and my arm went, and that was it. And once my arm went, I didn't have, my low back was weak, my arm was shot, and I tried different modalities. I had steroid injections, PRP injections. I have a tear in my arm, and I even tried different techniques, instead of saying a side posture, using a drop. But when you use a drop, the end motion, my arm would wince. When you do a cervical break, it would go. My back was, I said, my hands are getting arthritic. I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't. The thing that mattered the most, honestly, is that I could not give the patient the care that they deserve because I was injured, and I felt that I just can't do that.
When was your surgery?
My surgery on my spine was April 22.
Okay.
I think it was.
And you've been told what have the doctors have told you? What have they told you about your disability?
I'm permanently disabled, being an active treating chiropractor.
But you can act in different capacities.
Oh yes, I can do a lot of other things that I have done in my professional career. I've taught a lot of classes. I'm a published author, motivational health speaker. I've been hired by top people in the country and the world to speak.
So what does this disability mean for your future as a chiropractor? What is it that you would like to do?
I'd like to work and serve at the capacity as a doctor of chiropractic in areas that I can.
Tell me about the certification. What amount of work went into getting your certificate with the Department of Transportation?
That's a very difficult exam. If you're not familiar with the process, it's a federal exam, and you have federal laws and federal regulations and things as a chiropractor we're not familiar with. Most of us aren't. Medications, cardiology issues, neurologic conditions, psychological issues, drug abuse, diabetic abuse, drivers, bipolar disorders.
Okay.
You have to learn a lot.
And so it was a lot of work to get your certification?
Oh yes, very difficult.
Okay, and you'd like to be able to use that going forward?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like the board to know?
Just that I'm very sorry to be in this position. I'm very disappointed that it happened, and I am very, very sorry.
Thank you.
Ms. Miller, did you have any cross-examination for Dr. Tutino?
Your Honor, I just had two questions, and then I will turn it over to the board to ask
Sure.
questions. Dr. Tutino, you had described that obtaining certification from the Department of Transportation. Is that the pro bono activity that you wish to participate in, or is that a paid employment?
No, I think there'd be a fee for someone that comes in, a truck driver or someone getting that fee, but I don't think it's covered by insurance companies, so to speak. I don't know.
Okay, and what pro bono opportunities would you like to participate in?
I would do community service. I would teach at, if you wanted me to do relicensure ethics seminars, I would be glad to experience what my fellow colleagues, hey, this is what happens if you, not on top of things, Absolutely.
Thank you. Your Honor, that is the total of my questions. I will turn it over to the board.
Okay, so let me ask the board members. Yes, would you like to ask any questions?
Yeah, usually if we just go in reverse order of the roll call.
That would be fine, certainly.
So let's start with Dr. Daniels.
Hi.
Morning.
Thank you for coming. So you said you did not give it the attention that it required. Can you speak to why you did not, and was there something going on?
I don't know if there's something going on. I had an associate doctor who purchased my practice, but he was the person primarily involved with the patient. I only saw the patient 5 times over that whole time. So I think that in retrospect, I learned a valuable lesson that I need to really be on top of so many things in a clinic, that I should have paid more attention to what was happening in the clinic at the time. And this one, because it was actually a complicated situation involving so many moving parts, that should have required me to actually look at it even more. This wouldn't have happened.
And so speaking to that, because it was complicated and she had 2 cases going on at the same time with 2 different attorneys, it didn't occur to you to maybe refer her to somebody else for one of the injuries because of the complications?
Yeah, I don't recall if we made that attempt or not, and I don't want to make any excuses that it didn't happen. I don't think it's right for me to do that. In retrospect, we may have made that to happen, but maybe sometimes they don't get authorized, whatever, but that's still not an excuse, is it? You should say, hey, this is what I believe in, that's what I need to do. Again, it was a screw-up.
And given the accusations and what you stipulated to, some of those have to do with upcoding and evaluation and management, yet you're here today asking for early termination of probation to do something that has to do with evaluation and management. So if you were in our position, what would you,
Yes.
how would you reconcile that?
Thank you for asking that question. I think in retrospect, when the reviewers reviewed it, it seems that way and it comes across that way because you had an injury and then you do a re-exam. She had a new injury, you're doing a re-exam. So it seems like, hey, you're doing all of these things, but we had to do them because there was another accident on top of another accident on top of that. So it seemed that way. I have not changed well, I don't have a practice now, but we changed no codes. I've changed no billing codes at all. And the reviewers that reviewed the files said everything's excellent. I did nothing different. From that, other than it might have been excessive because of all the multiple accidents and things that were going on. That's all I could say about that.
So, but wouldn't that be clearly documented in your records that this re-exam was for this and?
Yeah, that's in the record. That's what we did, a re-exam. There's a re-exam fee.
But that's not what the investigators found.
I know I'm sorry, I'm not here to,
Okay.
that's what happened though.
Okay. A couple more questions. So, given your injuries, you feel that you still can perform physical exams that requires standing, it requires, if you're doing reflexes, motor, so you feel that you're capable to do those accurately and efficiently given your multiple injuries?
Yes, I think I can. Those require, for the most part, little or physical effort. They don't require pushing, pulling, twisting, bending. I mean, I can, do a reflex of the patellar reflex if I have to do that. I could do, of course, upper extremities. I could do, blood pressure, auscultation. I can do those things. I mean, what I can't do is no way can I bend over, push and pull, lift the patient. There's no way my arms are shot. I can't do it.
Okay. What guideposts do you have for yourself, considering what happened and what you want to go into? If you could speak to, like, in yourself, how would you prevent making the same mistake? Like, what actions, what support do you have? If you could speak to that a little bit.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Based on this experience, something that maybe we don't know is, but once I realized we had made an error, I immediately said, maybe I need another set of eyes on my files, what's going on. I hired an outside billing service. I did this all before the board. I did everything I could once I realized we made an error. But for me personally speaking, I've grown from this experience as a person. I am a mature man. I've been practicing for a long time. And I know that I have to pay much more attention and maybe, now this is going to be me, not let things get too far away from an arm's reach. In other words, keep on it and make sure. Also, I continue to take classes and courses and reading and educating and to be on top of my game.
Thank you. And I think just one last question. So if you have, one of these patients in front of you, so you're saying you feel physically capable to perform the reflexes correctly, the motor exam correctly, stand without being distracted by your injuries, and you feel confident that you're objective enough if that patient is not really injured or does not, pass your exam, that you will do the right thing and won't be conflicted with that?
Yes, in practicing, as long as I have, you develop a maturity level, I think, in the level of profession to direct patient care over time. When it comes to the Department of Transportation examinations, we're talking about vision, hearing, urinalysis, blood pressure, basic reflexes, neurological exams. It isn't, and it's not, they're not my patient. And I'm not directing care. In other words, I'm saying you pass the exam or you don't pass the exam, and then you need to go to your appropriate specialist to get clarification. So that's where I feel that this would feel right in line what I'm able to do physically, because they're not gonna be my patient, and I'm not gonna be providing the treatment. It's most like, can you perform the task or can't you perform the task? And that's really what it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any further questions.
I have a quick follow-up question. You had indicated there was an associate chiropractor who was primarily involved in caring for this particular patient. Do you know, was there any action against that individual's license?
No, I assume full responsibility of everything that happens in the clinic, and I just felt that he was doing his thing, and I just felt that I should have handled that.
Thank you.
Go to Ms. Cruz.
No questions right now.
Mr. Sweet?
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions. Thank you for being here with us. First off, have you given any thought to or had any discussions with the Department of Transportation regarding the workload or how many exams you'll be doing?
I have not. I just passed the exam on the 25th of August, and I know I had this coming up. And I don't know exactly how they do it. I know I'm on their registry now, I know that. But I don't know if it's a driver contacts you. I don't know. I have my website, of course. I should say my email, not a website. I'm not familiar with how they do it exactly yet. I just need to get some clarity from the board here and also moving forward.
And I think you touched on it before, but you'll be billing for this service?
Only it would be a cash basis. There's no insurance charge. I don't even know what that fee is at this point. I don't know what usual and customary. I have no idea. That was not my goal. My goal was to be active in what can I do, and what I don't know what those are.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Adams?
Yes, thank you for being here, Doctor. A couple
Thank you.
questions. You say that you've done teaching, consulting, and otherwise. What teaching, consulting, or otherwise do you
Yes,
plan on engaging in?
I am a published author. I wrote the book Stop and Think, The 7 Habits of Healthy Living. It's in 2 languages. I've given over 1,000 live lectures all over the world. I've been hired by the likes of Anthony Robbins. I've spoken to people all over the world on health, on digestive disorders, nutritional counseling, healthy lifestyle. I'm highly motivated in the chiropractic works. I've been obviously in the CCA my whole career. I spoke for the CCA. I've spoken for San Diego State University. I've spoken for Cox Communications. I've spoken for everyone. And I enjoy sharing and giving and knowledgeable people. I have to do this. It's what I do, and I love people. So I find myself, I don't want to make excuses, but I find myself in the twilight zone right now because I pride myself in being a good person, a good man, a great doctor. And I had an amazing practice, kind of practice that anybody going to school in this place dreams about. Golden. Never been on social media one day in my life. Never marketed any which way. It was all referral. I just couldn't do it anymore. I had to give it up. I mean, I wanted to do everything you guys are asking me to do. I just can't do it. And that's where I got stuck.
By my estimations, you can clarify, looks like you spent about 8 months of your probation before you were physically incapacitated, is that correct? From October 21 to April 2022?
Yes, my back at that point, I did oversee the practice though, even though I was out for 2 weeks because I couldn't drive post-surgical. But I was always there overseeing the practice. It was still my patients being seen. It was almost like one of those situations, I'm sorry, I don't know the term. You know, when a doctor comes in for you because you're sick for a month or something like that. He was seeing my patients while I was in the clinic overseeing the practice. So they were still being billed under my license. So I had to, obviously, I want to be on top of it like a microscope for sure these days.
Was a condition of your probation for you to disclose to your patients of your
yes.
discipline?
Absolutely.
Was your associate that was seeing your patients, was he disclosing?
I don't
That
know.
that your practice, he was working under your
Yes,
practice?
in fact, what we had to do, it was new at the time to disclose to the patients, so I wasn't sure. Christina, who no longer is here, had asked me, that had put something in the clinic or whatever, but actually it was more forward than that. There's actually a separate document that they have to sign, every new patient, or every patient had to know that I was on probation. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you were doing that?
Absolutely.
And your associate was doing that on behalf of you to any new patients?
Every patient that came in, they signed that document.
Okay. So I perform DOT physicals.
Oh, great.
And so I know the physical requirements of doing that. So there's a concern that I have in following up to Dr. Daniel's
Okay.
comments about your physical capacity. Have you, in the course of, have you just done the book work for the DOT physical, or did you do any of the practical aspects, the clinical aspects of performing a DOT physical?
I had to first pass the exam, so that's what I've done now.
That's the written part, you mean?
Yes, I
So the
passed that.
academic part of it.
Yes, I had to do that, And now I haven't had the opportunity to actually have an individual come in yet because it's so new. So I haven't done that yet.
So performing, I mean, obviously you perform physical exams throughout
Yes.
your career.
Yes.
So you're confident that physically you can handle doing those things, like, I mean, to doing a straight leg raise? I mean, you got some big truckers.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
You're right.
I mean, I've taken care of some of these guys.
You're right.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I'm pretty confident I can do it. Again, I was trying to find an angle where I can continue to practice as a doctor of chiropractic. If that was an angle that can't be done physically, I'm thinking other avenues, clinical nutritionist, I mean, a lot of other things I can do that may not require that level.
So you're not necessarily set on that course per se?
No, I thought it would be.
It's one of your options?
I enjoy it. I enjoy being a doctor of chiropractic, and I'm hoping I can do it, but if I can't, then I won't. I mean,
So during the course of your practice, did you do any activator or impulse or anything like that, and you still couldn't physically do that?
well, no, I didn't. I'm not an activator practitioner, so that would be something new to me. I did use instrumentation when warranted, but that's not the type of practice I had, so it would be completely foreign to me.
So, just kind of wrapping up my part, hearing some of the questions, is it what exactly in your mind, terminating your probation, how is that going to alter? Because you have your license,
Yes, sir.
so you can, though you can't physically, as you said, do it the way, but you can perform DOT physicals. My understanding, you're not precluded from that as long as you're meeting the requirements of your probation. What advantage, or what in your mind is the reasoning for early termination? Because what happened was pretty significant.
It was
And-
horrible.
And
I'm sorry it happened. Very sorry, actually. I can't. I said I had nightmares. I don't know what to tell you. After thousands and thousands of patients for this, that, I don't know what to say. I'm not going to point the finger at anybody. I have to accept the responsibility. I have to.
so in your mind then, what is the advantage, or what is the reasoning, since you can do the DOT physicals, you can
Yeah.
do those other things that you're wanting to do, what is the purpose of the early termination then? Just to put this in the rearview mirror, what?
Well, I mean, it would be nice, but at the same time, I want to do everything possible to comply with this board. I'm not looking to get away with anything. I've done everything that reasonably possible. I just got stumped at this point. So that's why I think I'm here. I don't know what else to do. I don't want to not do what I'm supposed to do. I want to do everything I want to do, supposed to do. I just need clarity so I can make sure that I'm doing what is correct for this board. I don't want to circumvent anything. That's not the goal. But if I have an option to do another way, I would. I just didn't know what to do.
How does the board give you clarity on what you want to do?
Well, if the board says, like you just mentioned, you still have a license, I said, well, that's good, thank you. And I'm going, okay. And but how do I monitor the DOT thing without insurance, billing, insurance? I don't have that. Or if somebody consults as a clinical nutritionist and I want to consult, how do I monitor? Tell me how to do that. I'll be glad to do that. If you just tell me how to do it, and I'll do it. I promise you I'll do it. I'll bend over backwards, I'll do it. I just need to know how, or what you want me to do, I'll do it.
So you're not necessarily having a problem being on probation, it's just that if we give you some clarity and some direction on what our expectations are, you're okay with that?
Of course, I still want to practice, I still want to do everything that I'm capable of doing. Yes, absolutely. That's all I need.
So my one final question is this, is if you were to have early termination of your probation, there's no longer any monitoring in a sense on the part of the board
Okay.
on your license.
Yes.
So therefore, you would kind of be out of our jurisdiction in a sense from that standpoint.
Okay.
And you're selling us today that you have no intent or that you've been barred by your disability to go back into practice under any circumstances? Or is that a possibility that you could obviously rehab, recover, and get to a
Yeah,
point where you could?
I have no intention to open another practice at that level again. I can't, I know, and the main reason is because I cannot deliver the appropriate care to the patient. I know when I give a good adjustment, and I know when I don't. And when I can't do that, I said, you know what? It's not right. And that's what it is. That's the main issue. It's not, has nothing to do with anything else. It's not, if I can't be a great chiropractor and put my hands on the patient and deliver the great adjustment that we need to deliver, and I can't do that effectively, the answer is no. I can't, and I won't. I won't do it. And that's the reason. That's what did it. I could have managed my practice. I could have had associate doctors. I could have just sat there and did that, right? I could. But I said, I'm not being good. I'm not being great. I'm not doing a good job. I can't do that. I can't. I won't. That's the reason.
Thank you for your answers.
You're welcome.
I have nothing else, Your Honor.
Thank you. I have a couple questions. First of all, Dr. Tatino, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
In person, and really appreciative of your efforts
Thank
in
you.
rehabilitation to date.
Thank you.
I'm still a little unclear. Thank you, that line of questioning. I'm still a little unclear. So are you aware, is there a prohibition from the Department of Transportation in the ability, you mentioned you're registered, you're certified and thus you're on the registry.
Yes.
So there is no prohibition against a probationary licensee from performing and signing off these physicals? So you could go do one today?
Yes, because I have an active license. I still have a license to practice. And that, just like everything else, I was treating VA patients, I was treating everybody else. I treated, like, that didn't prohibit me from being a doctor of chiropractic and treating patients. I think that's correct.
My question is specific to your knowledge and awareness of the Department of Transportation rules, regulations, policies. So you can, with your license in its current state, go perform those physicals?
As far as I know, they registered me, I gave them my license number, I did everything appropriately, yes.
Have you not done any investigation into that issue personally? I mean, the reason I'm asking is I'm getting the sense that you haven't even looked into that on your own.
I didn't realize that I had a restriction to practice with my license. Is that right?
But you're aware that you're on probation.
Of course, but when I was on probation, I'm still on probation, but I'm able to treat, yes? If I physically was able to treat, I could treat, yes?
So you have not investigated or asked that question regarding the dot?
I didn't know.
Okay,
No, sorry.
okay. Thank you. In the billing question, and have you done any further thought about how you would generate income via the dot physicals? I know you mentioned, like, you seemed a little bit unaware about that process and how they would contact you or how you would even kind of enter into that business.
I haven't taken the time or had the opportunity to investigate. Is it a random, how they get a hold of you? Or do you let, I think an active treating chiropractor probably lets their patients know, hey, I do this service now. So I'm thinking, do I then allow or notify the community that, hey, I perform these exams at this location, make an appointment? Don't know exactly how that actually works through them. But I think in my own direction would be, if I can do this now, I would just say, hey, give the public notice, know that I perform these exams. If you're a commercial driver and you have to be renewed, then if you want to come into the clinic and see me then, make an appointment, and I would see them, and if they pass, they pass, if they fail, they fail, or you have an eye exam by an ophthalmologist or optometrist or whatever that is, that's what I would do.
So there are situations where DCs get certified and registered in these, and they start to attract either a large volume of patients from, like, say, a trucking company or from companies like Walmart, et cetera.
Yeah.
And they're approached to enter into contracts with those groups to provide these for all their truck drivers. And in much of those situations, they entail some billing to those companies, and some contractual arrangements. Are you aware of any of those, or?
That wasn't, that's not where my head was going. Keep in mind, I am disabled, and I have a disability, where I'm on disability. I just want I need to I need to be active in my profession. I love my profession. I wasn't gonna be, my goal is not to become that at all. And if it was insurance billing of some kind or some billing thing, I'm not opposing monitoring at all. If that comes to fruition, I'm fine, okay, no problem. I have no issues with that.
And so, thank you. My last question is, I still am not completely clear then on the termination of your probation and how that changes your current situation your ability to move forward.
I was not absolutely sure how to move forward. That's probably what happened here. I didn't know, I wanted to comply. I still want to comply, 100%. You'll have no resistance from me whatsoever. I'm just not sure what we were supposed to do based on my disability, what had happened, because it's a permanent situation, so I didn't know how to tackle it. So that's why.
Understood. Thank you, that helps. Thank you for clarifying that. I have no further questions.
Okay.
I think Dr. Dean has
I have a
Yes,
couple
of course.
follow-up. Okay, great, thanks. I wanted just to follow up, when you were in the practice, you said that the patient signed a notification that you were on probation,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes.
And the associate did that as well?
I don't, I want to make sure, the patients that were my patients all signed that document. They knew that I was on probation.
So the patients, but you owned the practice?
Yes.
So they're all your patients?
No, they weren't actually.
Even if they're being seen by the associate, did the patient know the difference between you as the
Yeah,
main
my-
doctor and the associate doctor?
Yes, my patients were my patients, and they all signed those documents.
And so just with that, did you sit them down and verbally tell them that you were on probation, or did you just hand them a piece of paper to read and to sign?
I can't say that happened on every case, but yes, they knew I was on probation.
That wasn't my question. Did you verbally explain to them that you were on probation, as well as having them sign the piece of paper? Or did you just hand them the piece of paper, they read it and signed it?
Well, they do that in the front office, so I can't say that I actually sat down with everyone and said that I'm on probation.
Did your staff sit down? And
They did give them the paper and said that Dr. Zutino's on probation.
But
and
you're
there's a
not
thing.
clear if you further expressed that to the patient when you took them back?
No, but there was some conversations from some patients in the clinic that when they came in and talked, they did bring it up, and I discussed it with them.
Okay. And then you said that your passion is to be a great chiropractor and to give back to the community, and that you said you only feel like you can do that if you're practicing, delivering an adjustment chiropractor. Is there a reason that you cannot be a great chiropractor and give back to the chiropractic community by being a great manager to incoming associates and managing the practice and interacting and giving back to, younger chiropractors.
I can't tell you how I would love to do that.
But you said that you chose not to do that because you only felt you could be a great chiropractor if you were treating them.
Yeah, if I had to run my own clinic, I'd want to partake in that clinic as an active treating. I just didn't want to oversee it. But for young chiropractors who are looking for knowledge, to show them how to hopefully manage a practice, to look at some of the things that can go wrong through my own personal experience. There's a lot of things that happen in a practice today. It's very, very difficult. I feel for the young chiropractors today. The challenge with staffing. I mean, one thing that I shouldn't talk too much, but I will tell you, it's very difficult when you stop a practice of 33 years. Psychologically, you're warped in the brain. But number two, unwinding a practice is very difficult. I had 401k plans. I had health insurance plans. I did everything I could to unwind. It's very, very difficult.
Okay. So it sounds like you don't want to give back in that way as far as managing your practice, but with the incoming new associates.
I personally don't want to own a practice again.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I just have one last question. So you said very clearly that you had no intention at all in practicing on any level. And so does that include, it's called locum tenens when you go in and cover.
That's the term,
Yeah,
I'm
when you
sorry.
go and cover for someone. So you don't see, say the associate, oh, I'm sick, could you just go in? Or you have a friend or a colleague, could you just come in and consult and then maybe treat in that visit? You don't see that happening?
I can't do that. To treat physically and bill for that service would be a problem for me with respect to private disability policy. I can't do it to that capacity. I can be a chiropractor a lot of other ways. I just can't be a chiropractor that way. And so that would be a problem. I can't do that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Dr. Daniels, could you spell locum tenens for our court reporter?
Maybe. LOCUM, another word, TENENS.
Thank you. And what you just asked leads me to a question. I'm looking at the disciplinary order and the stipulation in paragraph 7, the tolling of probation. In the event that the board, and this is a question for Ms. Kelly, in the event that the board decides not to terminate probation, to leave Dr. Tutino on probation, non-practice is defined as any period of time exceeding 30 days in which respondent is not engaging in the practice of chiropractic. Do you consider what what petitioner plans to do with that constitute the practice of chiropractic for purposes of the disciplinary order?
I do. I believe that if he was actively seeing Department of Transportation cases, that it would be considered the practice of chiropractic. I don't think that adjustments are the only thing that makes that distinction. And just the Department of Transportation does not bar probationers. I did the research. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Your Honor,
Yes.
If I could just circle back,
Absolutely.
just one thing, that it's just kind of sticking in the back of my mind, and I thought I could let it go, Doctor, but I just
Okay.
can't. So, when you were engaging with Dr. Daniels, she was asking some questions about what you agreed to in your stipulation, and as a part of your probation, you admitted to certain things, and I felt there was a little bit of pushback on you when she was questioning you about the idea of upcoding and excessive treatment, and you kind of talked about the overlapping and you weren't paying attention to it. There's a difference between billing frequently for a procedure, which would be excessive, and then upcoding. Upcoding, do you understand the difference between an upcoding versus excessive?
Yeah, you'd charge because of an exam fee, or you gave it a different,
Well, you did A, but you charged for B.
yeah.
For example, a 99202 is different than a 99203 and a 204, right?
Correct.
Those are degrees of difficulty requiring more
Correct.
on your part to
Yeah.
justify the higher code. That's upcoding.
Yeah.
When you
You're right.
document something that's at a 99202 level,
Mhm.
but you bill at a 203 level. You follow me?
Yes, sir.
That's something you acknowledged in your stipulation.
I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't understand the question. That's why I answered it the way I did. I
So-
was looking at it a different way. And I acknowledge that what you're saying now. I didn't understand the question, I'm sorry.
But now that you understand.
I do.
Is that something that you're saying that you did, that you acknowledge you
Well,
did?
It happened. Wasn't aware that it happened until it came up. It's not something that I do in the clinic at all.
So it's your testimony that it was your associate?
I don't know, the associate, the billing department, is a mistake. There's no doubt.
So then, just humor me here a little bit on a line of questioning. So how does it happen in your office? When you perform an exam, you circle the code, or you indicate the code of what you performed, and that goes to the billing? How, I'm trying to understand how.
I think it was more where we did an exam, and then the billing people put in the codes. I don't have a circle of what code it was.
Okay, so in your 33 years, how many patients do you think you saw during that 33 years?
It's in the thousands,
Okay.
in the thousands,
So all we have is one patient to
Yes.
go on.
yes,
Do you understand where we're coming from? That
yes, but,
you said thousands of patients.
yes,
We have one situation here.
yes,
The potential there, right, of oversight, that's a little bit of a concern for me. That, how many other times might that have happened?
well,
Because you weren't overseeing it and specifically circling a code that you identified.
and I appreciate your concern, by the way, and it does make sense, logical sense, that if you did it once, just because you got caught once doesn't mean you did, or it didn't come up.
Well, I'm not necessarily saying that I'm not here
Yeah.
discussing your intent. I'm just saying, from a standpoint
Yeah.
of our board and where we have
Yeah.
to come on that,
Right,
you're kind of like acknowledging I wasn't overseeing it at that time. I'm having a hard time because I've had a situation where I've had a patient I'm seeing that got in a subsequent accident. It was really no difficulty for me at all to say, that situation stopped and the new situation started.
correct.
That seems like a pretty
That's
obvious
exactly right.
thing. So when I hear you say, well, I was not really oversight, I wasn't really paying attention, I had an associate, I feel a sense of mitigation there.
Yeah,
And part of my thing, you have to understand, doctor, and I'm not speaking for the board, for myself, is there's an element of ownership. I get that you're owning it, but there's also a little bit of,
yes, yes, sir. I think you're right.
kind of softening it, mitigating it.
This particular situation, I've had cases like you're saying, where patient gets in an accident while they're treating again the same another accident with the same law firm. This was a different law firm, which confused us.
How?
Well, because
Help me
who do
understand
we
how.
bill? It was a mistake. It was a mistake, sir. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you guys it wasn't. It was a mistake. It was mishandled. That's all there's to it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I apologize for a little bit extra
No,
time there.
no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? And did you have any recross that you wanted to do?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, any other redirect?
No.
Okay. So we have completed the testimony phase. At this time, if anyone would like to make a closing, this would be the opportunity to do that.
No, thank you,
Ms.
Your Honor.
Miller, no?
I'll
Ms. Kelly?
submit.
Okay, so the matter is submitted. At this time, the board will go into closed session, or do you want to hear the other matter
I
first?
think we'll hear the other matter.
Okay, all right, so this matter is deemed submitted, and we will go off the record as for this matter. Thank you all very much.
Judge
Thank
Pearl.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you,
Board
Kevin.
members.
Thank you.
That sounds good. We're going to take a 10 or 15-minute break. Should we make it?
Let's make it 15.
15-minute break, and we'll resume at that time. And I'm going to ask our court reporter if you can give me an estimated page number, and everyone's free to begin
Resume
your
at
break.
10:15.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome back from the break. We are going to continue the board meeting and petitioner hearings, moving to back to agenda item 21, and I will turn it over to our administrative law judge, Perlman.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we are on the record. It is October 20th, 2023. We're at 10:15 a.m. We are together in person in Whittier, California. We are on the record before the Board of Chiropractic Examiners in the matter of the petition for reinstatement of surrendered license of DMT Win. It's DIEMTHINGUYEN. BCE case number AC 2017-1135, OAH case number 2023090771. I'm Lori Perlman. I'm the administrative law judge who will be presiding over the board hearing today. We have taken a roll call previously, and we have ensured that there is a quorum, and accordingly, we will proceed this morning. And I will start now with appearances. I will take the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General first.
Thank you, Your Honor. Lisa Miller, Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Government Code Section 11522.
Okay, good morning to you, Ms. Miller. And then for petitioner.
Good morning. Adam Richards for petitioner Wynn.
And could you give me the correct pronunciation for Ms. Wynn's name?
I'll
sure
let her
I
do that.
Butchered that.
Yim Nguyen. Yim Nguyen.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we are going to proceed this morning. Let me ask first if the parties plan to make opening statements.
I do, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Miller?
Just a summary, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll start with Ms. Miller's summary at this time.
Thank you, Your Honor. Before I do so, Your Honor, if I may please I would like to mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1, the petition, application, and accompanying documents submitted by Ms. Nguyen.
Yes, I will mark that as Exhibit 1 for identification at this time. And is there any objection to it coming into evidence?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, the board issued license number DC 27710 to petitioner on August 7th of 2001. Ms. Nguyen's license was surrendered to the board effective December 1st of 2018. The board filed accusation number AC 2017-1135 on March 20th of 2018. The accusation was based on petitioner's treatment of 8 patients and alleged the following causes for discipline: gross negligence, incompetence, excessive treatment, endangering the health, welfare, and safety of the public, failure to co-manage patients' treatment or refer them to a medical doctor, And the accusation was also based on petitioner's September 18th, 2017 conviction of 2 misdemeanor counts of Business and Professions Code 2052, which is practicing medicine without a license in Sacramento Superior Court, and her use of sensational statements in advertisements. The factual allegations set forth in the accusation are as follows: that while treating these 8 patients, petitioner failed to document the need for entering a treatment plan with the patients, implemented treatment plans of nutritional supplements without a proper basis, made sensational claims of advertisements in the Sacramento Bee, such as her ability to treat medical conditions such as Hashimoto's disease and diabetes. In addition to the factual allegations set forth in the accusation also notes that petitioner was previously cited by the board on May 26th, 2011, and August 2 of 2012 in regard to her advertisements. Petitioner entered into a stipulated surrender agreement with the board, which was effective December 1st of 2018. Under the terms of the agreement, petitioner's license was surrendered, and she agreed to pay cost recovery of $15,000 prior to the issuance of a new or reinstated license. Petitioner filed a petition for reinstatement, which was received by the board on April 28th of 2023. And as part of her petition application, she provided evidence of sufficient continuing education to fulfill her continuing education requirements for each year her license was surrendered, as well as proof of expungement of her criminal conviction pursuant to Penal Code Section 1203.4 and character reference letters. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Okay, Mr. Richards, whenever you're ready with your opening.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. As stated by Ms. Miller, Ms. Swin was issued a license in 2001. She surrendered effective December 1st of 2018. She had a successful practice in Elk Grove for a number of years before broaching a new area of practice for her. But in essence, the causes for discipline derive almost entirely from her implementation of a so-called functional medicine protocol, in addition to her failure to document the height and weight of a few patients, and her 2 misdemeanor convictions for practicing medicine without a license, again implementing this so-called functional medicine practice. I had to look up functional medicine. I represented Ms. Wynn in the underlying matter, and essentially it is an alternative medicine which is not really well defined, but popular in some circles, holistic health circles, alternative protocols, naturopaths, etc. And it purports to address the supposed root causes of diseases based on interactions between the environment and the gastrointestinal, endocrine, and immune system to develop individualized treatment programs, which Ms. Wynn did. She was initially drawn to this in approximately, we'll do this on direct, but roughly a decade into her career of doing very traditional rote chiropractic, she began attending seminars put on by various providers who touted these practices as ones which could supplement or augment patient treatment. And she was drawn to these, as testimony will show, because she has her own personal interest in her own life with good nutrition, holistic practices, avoiding medical care if possible, certainly not to the deficiency of proper treatment and care for herself. But she had a very strong interest in it, as well as, a family background and culture in wanting to help and heal and address those issues. So with respect to all 8 of the patients listed within the accusation, she had implemented a treatment plan as she had gleaned from these various seminars she attended, and treated patients, in some cases, for clearly diagnosed medical conditions. And I believe the underlying facts and record would show that all of these patients had treating physicians, but Dr. Wynn, Ms. Wynn, implemented these treatments without co-managing or making further referrals with these doctors, and was operating somewhat discreetly and autonomously with these treatments and protocols she had obtained from these various seminars. And she's going to testify today, similar to what she stated in her petition, that she was naive and grossly negligent in her decision to adopt these various treatment plans and protocols without due diligence, whether that's consulting board publications, possibly an expert, or other venues, particularly in addressing these patients without co-treating with a licensed medical professional such as an MD or an osteopath or someone else. But she'll also testify, and very credibly, that what led to this is her judgment was clouded by her enthusiasm for the subject matter and some naivete as far as being in these seminars and having it being presented to her as though legitimate. She had a rude awakening when the matter was brought by the board. She, very early on in the disciplinary proceedings, started to learn very quickly what was outside the scope of practice, and that she'll testify today that she neglected her professional duty to ensure that these new endeavors were accepted practices and within the scope of her license. She was convicted of 2 offenses, which obviously was devastating to someone like her who's now 50 and never had any other issues with a court in a criminal matter. Both of those offenses, as stated by Ms. Miller, have since been dismissed or expunged pursuant to Penal Code Section 1203.4. That order is on page 40 of the board's materials. She surrendered her license, and that was emblematic of, as testimony will show today, early acceptance of responsibility and just the first step in a road toward rehabilitation. She'll testify today that she has not been idle and has done virtually everything that could be expected of someone in her position to rehabilitate and demonstrate responsibility for her actions, including extensive CE and relevant CE, I should say, deep personal introspection about what brought her here, extensive volunteer service, and staying active in other endeavors. At the conclusion today, I believe the packet and testimony will show that not only does she check the boxes when you look at the board's rubric for rehabilitation and acceptance of responsibility, but more importantly, that she's had a genuine shift of mindset, accepts responsibility, and will be an asset not just to the profession, but her community if her license is reinstated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Okay, so at this time, did you intend to ask Ms. Nguyen questions?
I do, Your Honor.
Okay, so let me go ahead and swear you in if you'll raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you so much. Okay, you can begin when you're ready, Mr. Richards.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Nguyen.
Good morning.
Ms. Nguyen, what do you currently do for work?
My husband owns a grocery business, so I'm a cashier. I buy inventories. I do payroll. I even clean the toilet if I need to. Janitorial work and doing sales. Paperwork around his grocery business. Paperwork, administrative work.
I'm going to move this microphone over to this way.
Administrative work, cashiering, cleaning, buying inventory, restocking inventories, cashiering, that type of work at my husband's grocery business.
Do you have any other duties in your daily life right now?
Yes, I take care of my teenage son. Since I've been not working as a chiropractor, I take care of my 2 teenage sons. At that time they was 10 and now they're teenager now. Taking them to sport activities, I help my kid with the homework. My older son is now entering college, so that's a little bit less work. And my younger son now is a junior year in high school, so I help with sports activities, taking him around his tutoring and things like that.
Okay. And since your surrender in 2018, have you held any other jobs or operated any other businesses?
We also own a restaurant, at that time, so the restaurant's called Star Ginger, so we own a restaurant.
Ms. Nguyen, let's keep it loud.
Uh,
The main person, well, everybody needs to hear you, but she's taking it all down.
We also own a restaurant called Star Ginger, so I'm at the cashier too. I work on the menus, on the recipes, things like that. So I work at the restaurant. But the restaurant now closed because during COVID, we had to shut down, and the lease ended, so we don't have a choice, so we just closed down the restaurant.
Thank you,
So
Ms.
now
Nguyen.
I just focus on taking care of my kids and running the grocery business.
Okay. Since your surrender in 2018, have you had any other activities besides jobs that you performed that may be relevant today?
Oh, yes. I volunteer at the Women Shelter for Domestic Violence. I also joined, during the time that I wasn't licensed, I was very sad and depressed, so I also participated in my friend's band, singing group, so I learned to sing. And so my friend was doing charity work, donation and stuff, so I was part of that singing group, so we sing and ask for donation and send back to Vietnam for orphanage kids.
And what about with respect to, specifically with regard to CE or continuing education? Can you describe your efforts in that front?
Oh yeah, every year I do, since I was not working as a chiropractor, I made sure that every year I completed my 24 hours of continuing education. I did not complete it at one time to enter this petition. I try to keep up with my education, so each year I committed myself to online CEs and live CE if necessary. During COVID, I did mostly online because you don't have a live CE. But this year, I did live CE too. A lot of continuing education.
Do you hold any other licenses in this state or any other?
No, just a chiropractor. Yeah, chiropractic.
Besides what was recited by Ms. Miller and the board earlier, do you have any other record of licensing discipline in this state or any other?
Oh no, not at all.
Other than the expunged convictions under review, which I'll address later, have you ever been arrested for or convicted of any other offense in this state or any other?
Oh no, not at all.
Can you briefly describe your educational background, Ms. Nguyen?
My educational background. I first came here when I was 10-year-old, so English is my second language. I first picked up a pen or pencil to learn ABC when I first come to the U.S. I'm the oldest in a family of 6 kids. I'm among those boat people. I grew up in poverty in Vietnam. My parents, my mom helped my dad. My dad's a fisherman. So we escaped from Vietnam to come over here in America. I worked very hard in high school, My parents were on welfare, and then they cut grass on the weekend to support all of us in school. So we see our parent work so hard, so we better be good. I do really well in high school. I was almost a top 10 in my high school. I got accepted into UC Davis, and then after Davis, I enrolled myself into chiropractic school. We work my kids work, but all of our siblings, we work very hard in school because we see that our parents work really hard to support us. And I'm proud to say that most of my siblings were very educated. I went to school as a chiropractor. There's 6 of us, and 3 of us graduated from UC Berkeley, and 3 of us graduated from UC Davis. And so my family, we value higher education. My parents always teach us that if you have a good education, you have a better job, because in Vietnam, I don't have any schooling. I first learned ABC when I was 10 years old. And in Vietnam, we are so poor that we can't go to school at kindergarten. We don't have school as a first grade or anything of that.
So after your journey of high school and then undergrad, you ended up in chiropractic.
Mhm.
What led you to chiropractic of all the different things you could have chosen to do?
Mhm. At UC Davis, after Biology 101, I drove my bicycle to go home. I got run over by my roommate. accidentally though. You know, I slipped and fell on a bicycle. I broke my 2 front teeth, bust my lips, had scar in my wrist, and then I was rehabilitated by a chiropractor. You know, I went to UC Davis initially to major in pre-med, but I got injured and the chiropractor helped me. I heal very well with my lips and my wrist, but I hurt my back and my neck. And I went to a chiropractor and he helped me, and that motivated me. And also, I always liked the healing arts of natural, holistic, because I feel that that's me. I believe in eating healthy, exercise, what you put in your body allow you to heal. And I know that my philosophy is not to take medicine if I don't have to. And my mom, it'll remind me that she's very genuine, because when we escaped from Vietnam, when we were among those boat people, we encountered the thunderstorm. There were 7 days where we don't have any food to eat, and everybody was given a small rice, and my mom gave a portion. She sacrificed a whole portion of rice for me, and the other portion to the kids that when they were starving. All the boat, you know, all the people, the fishermen and in there, they all had to take care of the younger kids. And my mom didn't eat her portion and give it to me, and then the other portion for other kids. So I know that my mom exhibit genuine and kindness, and so I believe in the healing art. You have that it resonate that kind of heart.
Thank you, Ms. Nguyen. So you were first licensed in 2001. Can you describe your practice when you first started out? What type of practice did you have?
When I graduated from chiropractic school, I did personal injury, back and neck pain, some workers' comp, some cash practice, wellness plan. It's a variety of everything to support my practice. So I can pay the rent and, you know, just part of a practice. I accept any chiropractic care, personal injury, workers' comp, wellness.
Were you a solo practitioner at the time?
Yes, I'm the only doctor in my own small practice.
Would it be fair to characterize your practice initially as what at least I, as a non-chiropractor, would consider to be a traditional chiropractic practice?
Yes.
Any other chiropractors employed by you?
No, only me.
Now, you had a traditional practice. At some point, did that change?
Yes. You know, I went into, you know, as part of to continuing education, there are CE courses. One of my favorite teachers, Dr. Tatis Karazian, I went to many of his seminars, and I went to standard process seminar, I went to APEX seminar, and Dr. Tatis Karazian teach about why do I have thyroid symptoms when my blood test is normal. I went to many functional medicine courses, and I was very fascinated, because I think it kind of, as a woman, I'm into health and holistic and nutrition, and I feel that fits me. So I started implementing nutrition, adding in more of these things into my practice. And then my own sister, she's an attorney now, who suffered with Graves' disease. And so, wow, I went to Dr. Tatis Karazian, and he talks about the issue. So I got really excited. I went home and I shared with her some of these things that could help.
Could you spell the name of the doctor who you mentioned, and also spell the disease you said your sister has?
Graves' disease, Graves. Dr. Tatis Karazian, he's well known in the chiropractic community. He teaches a lot of the seminar. I think Dr. K, they call it, but it's a long Indian name. I don't know. Khazzin, I think.
Might have to leave it phonetic on that one.
Okay,
Or we can look it up.
okay. Did you need more than that? You're okay. Okay, thank you.
His first name is spelled Datis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So when, roughly, after how many years did you begin to implement some of these additional techniques or knowledge that you gleaned from some of these other seminars that were not, I guess, considered traditional chiropractic, may not be chiropractic at all?
I, you know, about, of course, 12 plus year into the practice, I went to the continuing education seminar for about 2+ years. I took functional blood chemistry, adrenal gland dysfunctions. I took a lot because I really like, so when you have an option to pick your CE course, what you want, I pick a lot of these electives that gear toward thyroids and adrenal function. And of course, I take the basic techniques and ethic courses, the one that is fulfilled. Any extra ones, I even fly out of state like Denver because he was hosting these seminars to attend his classes.
Okay, so if I understand your testimony, approximately after roughly 12 years in practice is when you began to study this and implement it?
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe how, and I know it may vary from patient to patient, but generally how you would implement these alternative theories and procedures in your practice? What are the mechanics of it? How would a patient come to you and how would you address it?
I would review their blood work, like the way they teach karate and some of the APEX seminar, they teach you how to review blood work. You have to analyze from a functional range to a standard range. And so if the patients fall within this functional range or outside this function, they're considered unhealthy or like they have abnormalities or why they're not feeling well.
So what would you do then? What would you do next if you made a determination?
So
Just
I
trying to-
learned.
hold on a second. Just trying to understand the mechanics of how you would implement that in your practice so the board can understand and potentially query you later.
They taught you that if they're outside of this range, then there's certain nutritional supplementation that you can add. Like if the patient has a positive, if you look at the blood chemistry and they have positive antibodies for Hashimoto, then you support them with vitamin D's, glutathione to help balance the immune function so the thyroid is not attacking the tissue. The immune system is not attacking their tissue. If they're having bowel dysfunction, you would help put them on a leaky gut diet program to help heal the gut. And at the same time, you want to do the elimination diet, identify what food sensitivity that they cannot tolerate, and eliminate that from their diet and counsel the patient on taking proper nutrition. So if the patient has allergic to wheat, dairy, then you eliminate them from that and have the patient avoid gluten or dairy.
Several of the 8 patients enumerated in the accusation had diagnosed medical conditions, is that correct?
Correct.
And to your knowledge, did they have physicians at the time?
As I recall, some of them do because they couldn't get help from their physician, so they were looking for alternative support.
Now, but you never coordinated or co-treated with any one of these physicians, right?
No, I did not.
You would meet with these patients at various intervals. Can you further describe, just so I understand? So they come in, you do an assessment. How often do you see them after that?
Some patients, I would see them twice a week or 3 times a week. Some I see once. It just depends on their financial. Some patients, even though I schedule them 3 times a week, they don't show up. Sometimes they come in once a week or 3 times a week.
What would you do at these appointments?
I review their, assess their function, assess their response. Some patient would come in, I feel really better with the diet that you put me on. I'm sleeping better now. I have more energy. So these are the kind of things that I sit down and assess.
Okay. Did your treatment program ever involve the possession or administration of controlled substances?
That means medication? No, I don't. I never do. I have no knowledge of medication, so I don't use it. I only have knowledge of nutrition, and so that's all I use.
Notwithstanding the fact that you didn't use any medications, as you put it, did you ever take any steps to assess or verify whether a chiropractor could implement these functional medicine principles in the manner in which you were doing it during the course of treatment of these 8 patients enumerated in the accusation?
I went to seminars, and there's so many chiropractors in that seminar, and I assumed that was the right thing to do. I assumed that, we are allowed to do that. But now I know, after being convicted, I pay a big lesson that you have to verify with the board. So the patient they have to be a chiropractic patient, and I can only use this nutritional supplementation if they're a chiropractic patient. I cannot treat this condition alone. So I realize now that I have to seek professionals, chiropractic consultants, to make sure that I am compliant, making sure that that I don't do anything outside of the scope, and I exceeded my scope by doing this. It take me being convicted, it take me to be cited by the board to realize that I was wrong.
So,
And I was naive and didn't see that.
so my question was, essentially, did you take any steps at the time this was ongoing to investigate whether, despite what you may have learned at the seminars, did you take any steps to determine whether you, as a chiropractor, were authorized or permitted to implement these various approaches within the scope of your practice? Did you take any steps?
Yes, I did some continuing education courses. I looked into ethics courses, practice. I took a CE seminar, Ethics and Jurisprudence, that is taught, it was in Back to Chiropractic by Stephen Eggleston. He's also a DC and he's a chiropractor. So he taught.
Ms. Nguyen, I want to clarify. Are you testifying about what you did around the time you were providing treatment, or after the board initiated its action?
After the board.
Okay, my question was, back when you were providing these treatments, back when you were entranced by these various approaches that you could take, and you were implementing these procedures, did you take any steps yourself as a chiropractor at the time to verify that you were able or allowed to do these things back then?
No, I did not. That's why I got in trouble.
Okay. Why, looking back, do you believe you failed to take any steps to determine whether you could use these things that were new to you in a chiropractic practice?
It was my fault because I didn't do due diligence. I didn't look up the board website. I didn't seek an attorney to find out what I was doing was correct. I assumed that in the seminar and what I taught you, it was taught by Datis Karazi, and he's a DC, so I thought, well, he wrote many books, he's a well-intelligent person, he's very knowledgeable, so I look up to him. I assumed that what he did was correct, and so I followed. He was my idol in these topics.
But he didn't teach that you could treat a medical condition without co-treating with a doctor, though, right?
Right. But he was teaching that, you're right, yes, but he was teaching this thyroid issue, so I was following, doing what he was doing, assuming it was the right thing, that I could.
And you never did collaborate or co-treat with doctors?
No, I didn't, and that's why I'm in this situation.
Okay, so you surrendered your license effective December 1st. I believe you signed the document in September, so we're more than 5 years past it. In these last 5 years, what steps have you taken to ensure that you won't make the same mistakes, given that back then you immediately jumped into this and didn't verify any resources, authorization, et cetera? What steps have you taken since then to ensure you don't repeat those mistakes?
I take continuing education courses, Ethics and Jurisprudence by Stephen Eggleston. In that seminar, in that education, I think I learned a valuable lesson from that. You cannot, he stated on there, you cannot go to a weekend seminar and come back and make sensational statement. Like, for an example, he says, there was a statement, this chiropractor, that he gave an example. You can't claim that you can boost a child's autoimmunity that you may help a child's autoimmunity by using homeopathy. That's considered may, because you can't use things that cannot be proven, and it's considered sensational. So those are things that I've taken. And I've also taken courses by Greg Freeman, how to bulletproof your practice. So making sure that you document properly, documentation and personal injury.
So that brings up another point. So it's also part of the accusation that you failed to document the height and weight of several of the patients. How did that failure come about? Was it a standard practice of yours to record that data?
Yes, it's part of the physical examination at the entrance of every patient into the practice. And I was careless you know, those those, no, they're not minor, but those are standards that you have to do. And I made those mistakes. I didn't do it, or maybe rush out, whatever happened, or maybe we did the rate and height and I may have forgotten to write it on the chart notes.
Okay, so you identified something about law and jurisprudence, but first I want to follow up with CE that you may have taken pertaining to record keeping. Can you identify any CEs that you completed that address proper SOAP notes and record keeping?
There are a couple by, what's his name is Back to Chiropractic. I don't know why today I forgot his name. Everybody's know him. Back to Health Chiropractic. Marcus Strutz. Sorry, today I'm just so nervous that I even forgot his name. I mean, everybody knows him. He teach back to Chiropractic. See, you go online. Marcus Strutz. I took a lot of his courses.
And so what about that course was relevant to your failure to maintain appropriate records?
What about that course?
Mm-hmm.
They drill us on you know. They drill us on you have to, proper documentation is the key. That's, if you don't do that, that's part of gross negligence. And that's part of a standard practice for a chiropractor.
Okay, and then with the risk of belaboring, you mentioned about law and jurisprudence. What lessons did you draw from that course that you feel is applicable to your actions in this case?
That I need to make sure that I do it from now on, and I need to make sure that I cross my T's and dot my I's in my record keeping.
As we referenced in several places, you sustained 2 misdemeanor convictions for practicing medicine without a license in Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
You chose to plead to these offenses, correct?
Yes, because I know I was wrong, and I can't fight for something that I'm wrong. Because I didn't do my due diligence, I didn't maybe read the board website, seek some counseling, maybe an attorney to make sure that what I'm doing is in compliance with my practice.
Okay, and then just for clarification, you didn't take this to a jury trial. You entered pleas and took responsibility, correct?
Yes, because I was wrong.
What was the effect, if any, of those criminal convictions on you, either personally or professionally?
It's a painful process, and I don't think I'm not going to go back there again. You know, the day I'm all over the news. Fox 40 News came by to my practice. They were outside. It was so embarrassing. And then my kids went to school. I don't know how, but I even talked to my son, like, was your mom arrested? And my kid come home and asked me that. I couldn't explain to him. And then that night is very traumatizing to me, you know. They knocked on my door around midnight and come in and says, you've been arrested for practicing without my license. It's a painful process. I don't know what to say, but I almost become so depressed after that for the last 5 years. But thankfully, I did a lot of things to get my mind off. I try to be a positive person and join a singing group, so get off that feeling. I try to get away from thinking that, so it helped heal me personally.
Ms. Nguyen, you stated in your petition that you accept responsibility for your actions.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean to you?
That I was wrong in what I did. So from now on, if I were to get my license again, I'm not going to go back there, even though I love this thyroid issue stuff, but that got me in trouble, and I don't want to be in trouble again. For women, you know, to be arrested, it's just not, you know, it's so embarrassing. It really, it hurts me emotionally. It's embarrassing to me, and I don't want to do it again. As much as I like it, if I get my license back again, I just want to adjust. I'm not going to get into nutrition stuff, even though I can apply it to myself, but I just don't want to get there. I honestly don't.
So-
Because,
Go ahead.
you know, I don't know, this is, I breached my duty. I realize now that I breached my duty as a chiropractor. Chiropractic school taught you that you deal with neuromusculoskeletal, so I just know that I'm only gonna stick to that. I don't wanna do it again.
Based on your prior statements, how can you provide assurance to the board
Mhm.
you'll abide by the laws and regulations governing chiropractors and won't deviate into these alternative areas? For example, what if you were to be presented with a seminar and you found a new technique or procedure?
Mhm.
How would you react to that if you're currently practicing as a chiropractor?
Oh, I'm gonna make sure that I check with the board. I'm gonna call up a lawyer, you know. You know how they says a penny you save is a pound foolish? If I need to hire a lawyer to make sure, to check with him and say, hey, is this what I'm doing correct? If I'm gonna implement this, I wanna make sure I hire consultants, check the board's website, call the board and find out. If I would think twice before I implement any of this procedure.
Ms. Nguyen, if the board chooses to reinstate your license, whether in full or restricted, do you have the ability to pay the cost recovery that was set forth in your surrender document?
If I start practicing again, you know, make some money, of course, I'm gonna pay. I have to pay, and I will pay. I promise to pay.
So it's now been 5 years roughly since you lost your license, since you surrendered it. You've raised your children. You've assisted your family with a flourishing business. Sounds like you've done a fair amount of community service. Why do you want to go back to chiropractic?
I honestly love chiropractic. I miss adjusting. You know, if I get reinstated, I want to be able to travel back to Vietnam and maybe adjust the orphanage kid over there. I know that in Vietnam it's very limited, and I think the profession is not recognized. I don't think there's chiropractic over there. And imagine, you know, as a chiropractor through my 19 years or 18 years of practice, I help relieve many neck and back pain. So I think that in Vietnam, there's a lot of people suffering from back and neck pain, and there's not a lot of chiropractor. If there's any, I don't think there's any chiropractor over there. So if I ever get reinstated again, I want to make a trip to Vietnam and adjust the orphanage over there. And also, the last 5 years, I'm very appreciative of my situation compared to other women. I mean, I volunteer at the women's shelter, and I see a lot of women who have no place to live. Their husband beat them up, you know, and the kids in Vietnam. In Vietnam, they have a lot of suffering, and I joined the singing group to help raise money to support. So if I ever get reinstated again, I want to make that trip. And also, I'm 50 years old already. I want to die with chiropractic. Maybe I think that I have only 20 more years to live, or I live up to age of 70. At least I want to die with chiropractic. I like to adjust. Yeah. Even though I'm only 110 pounds and I'm barely 5, I can adjust. You know, I use orthostem. I'm very good at adjusting the neck, too.
Just one last follow-up. Aside from your admirable intention to go to Vietnam, you also would intend, if you were reinstated, to practice in this state, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Nothing further this time.
Thank you so much. Any cross-examination?
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Ms. Nguyen, you mentioned that, you know, if you were to be reinstated by the board, that you would not incorporate aspects of thyroid treatments or nutrition into your practice. Are there any aspects of functional medicine that you would hope to incorporate into a practice if you were a chiropractor again?
I think if the patient have, if a patient come in if a chiropractic patient, if they have some kind of like weight issue, I would help counseling on diet, maybe, diet and nutrition. Just, I mean, like, maybe help some, weight loss issue, if I do. I don't know, but right now, I haven't thought about it yet, but if I were to do it, maybe I would consider that, because I believe in eating healthy, putting the right food into your body. For me, I try to exercise 3 times a week. I do that, still do now, and I want to be a role model to the patient, so,
Thank you. Now, part of the allegations in the accusation pertain to your advertising and sensational statements. Now, I know that you've just testified that you have attended ethics courses and other continuing education about the kinds of claims that are appropriate to make as a chiropractor. However, there is the issue that you were, prior to the accusation being filed, that you were cited on twice. Given that history of repeated use of advertising that was sensational, what assurances can you give to the board that you will not engage in that conduct again?
I would have a consultant review. If I were to advertise for any of that, I would have a consultant review my ad to make sure that it's correct before I even publish any ad, if so.
Thank you. Let's see. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Okay, any questions from board members?
Start with Dr. Daniels.
Good morning, thank you. I have a few questions, a little bit to follow up on Ms. Miller's questions. I'm curious to hear again in your own words what exactly, very specifically, what you feel was the error. I'm very familiar with Dr. Karazian's work, which is Kharrazian. I'm very familiar with the work and standard process as well. And so I want to hear more specifically from you what you feel was inappropriate. And maybe in addition to that, you were saying that you saw these people maybe twice a week, depending if they could come in and afford it. So if you were treating a thyroid issue, what were you doing on those visits at twice a week? Were you redoing their labs? Did you do a physical exam?
I would assess, they meet with me and I assess how are you feeling from last supplement I gave you? Did you have better energy? Were you sleeping better? More like a consultation and assessing how they feel.
And so you would monitor them twice a week by just asking them how they were feeling?
Yes.
And then when you initially did an initial consultation, you did lab work?
Most of them, I remember, come in already with previous lab from their physicians.
Okay.
And so I think Apex, they teach you this blood chemistry program, and then you would evaluate the functional range versus the standard range.
So if they didn't have lab work from their physician, would you request lab work?
Yes.
Okay. And what facility would you use?
I remember whatever their insurance pays cover for the lab.
Okay.
Like
and then say it was a thyroid, they were complaining about that. What physical exam did you perform?
Dr. Karazian teach you palpation for looking for any nodule or lumps around the neck area.
And would you perform anything else?
I don't remember, but I know if they were thyroid, I perform palpation of the neck, looking for nodule.
Would you perform blood pressure, seated, standing?
Oh, yes, yes.
Supine?
Correct. Blood work, check the blood pressure. I don't remember I did it or not, but I know some I did, you know.
But that wasn't a standard exam? It would depend on the person in front of you?
Yeah, the blood work, yes, correct.
And then on average, how many supplements would you recommend to somebody, say, it seemed like you did a lot of thyroid, so how many supplements would you, on average, did you recommend for the patient?
3 or 4,
And-
approximately, I think. Most is thyroid patient, Dr. Detis, I remember he said to calm down their immunity, so I would support them with vitamin D's. I remember glutathione, so maybe 2, 3, 4. That's what I think, around there.
And then when would you rerun their lab work?
Approximately maybe 3 months into it.
Okay. I have a few more questions. You said that you're a good adjuster and you like to adjust, and has it been 5 years since your last adjustment, or when was the last time you performed an
Since 5
adjustment?
years.
So you haven't performed an adjustment on your sons, your children?
No, they're afraid to adjust. They won't let me. The kids, they don't want to be adjusted.
Okay. And so, do you feel if the board was to give you your license back, it's been 5 years since you performed an adjustment, which takes quite a bit, it's a psychomotor skill that is learned.
Mhm.
And so, how are you able to feel confident in re-entering that physical skill set without having practiced it?
No, good question. I would have to work with using, I can use, there's other AutoStim activator. When I was in practice, there were some difficult patients, so I used a lot of AutoStim and vibropressure, and I would loosen up the muscle first to make it easier to do a maneuver.
Okay. I'm curious, you mentioned your children, and I appreciate how traumatic and stressful that was for you when they were coming to your door. Have you sat down with your children and explained to them what has happened?
Yes. I talked to my son, Mom, did you get arrested? Yeah, I did get arrested, son. They said that Mommy's practicing medicine with a license. And at school, a lot of kids ask him, was your mommy arrested? And he came home, he cried at me. And I told him the truth.
Thank you. What was the main takeaway from working at the women's, domestic violence women's place that you volunteered at? I know you mentioned, being grateful for where you're at compared to where they're at. Is there something else that you took away from working there?
Yes, I feel that as a woman, I just feel very sad if at that time, if I have money, or I feel like if I would build like a shelter to be assist, and I would volunteer my time out there to give them food, It's so sad, I work at that center. They call in, they're crying. They don't have a place to live. They with their children in the rain. It's just very emotional for me. There's nothing I could do at that time, but there's a program in there. I put their name on the list to be called if there's a place that open up.
And then again, to, I think, follow up on Ms. Miller's question, in 2011 and 2012, the board had contacted you for sensational advertising.
Yes.
Yet then, 5 to 6 years later or so, you were, clearly contacted again. When you, 2011, 2012, what were your thoughts? It seems like you didn't really learn from those discussions from the board about the sensational advertising. So I'd just like to get in your brain as far as, you were accused of sensational advertising, the board reached out to you, but then you seem to sort of continue with that, so.
The ad, the ad has many technical terms. At that time, I made effort already to change, but now the different ads so there's a lot of language that they didn't proofread correctly, and so I continue to make those mistakes because there's area there before, and now there's not an area that come up, and that's why the mistake before was different from the mistake 5 years later into.
So were you creating the ad, or did you have a company create the ad?
I had a company. I was enrolled in practice management.
Okay.
And they given me those ads. But of course I changed a little bit, but the way that I changed it was not standard, and not good. I didn't do it right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so if the board was to give you back your license and you said you would mainly focus on treating the spine or the adjustments, what are you going to do, or how would you handle? You have a patient in front of you, a female, we'll say, she's on the table, she's depressed, she's emotional, she's overweight, she says she has thyroid problems. You're in that contact with her and you're adjusting her, and she is begging you to help her because she is feeling ignored from her other doctors.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, how would you handle that situation?
I'm going to call up the board and make sure that all this situation I'm doing, before I implement anything, I'm going to make sure I call the board or seek counseling to make sure if I'm thinking of doing this, I need to make sure that if I implement this is correct, because I do not want to be in trouble again. It's just not worth it. Or if I don't feel comfortable with that, then I have to refer this patient out, because I don't think I want to put myself in that situation again. I know she's begging me for help, and I feel like, oh, there's another side of me that I want to help her, but I just don't want to get myself in this situation ever again, to put my family in this situation, my children in this situation.
So I'm the patient, what are you going to say to me?
I don't feel that I'm comfortable in helping you. I'm going to refer you back to your doctor. Maybe your doctor have another person that is an expert that is better than me.
But my doctor hasn't helped me.
I don't feel that I am licensed in this capacity to help you. I don't feel like I'm fully knowledgeable, and I don't feel comfortable myself in helping you. I can't help you.
Would you share with that patient what had happened previously?
Yes. I got in trouble before, and I don't think I can help you. I did help other patients, and I was in trouble, and so I don't want to be in trouble again.
Do you have a referral source? Do you have a referral list? Would you create a referral list, for someone who's asking for help? Have you researched, or would you research, medical doctors that do treat this, or other doctors that are licensed?
I know there's an MD, Dr. Charles Carpenter in downtown. He's an MD, and I seen him in my functional medicine classes, so maybe I think that you could go to him, maybe.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Those were my questions.
Thank you.
Ms. Cruz?
So if you were to have your license reinstated, what would your plan be? Would it be your own personal practice? Would you work under within another doctor's office? What would your plan be?
I don't have the financial means yet to open my own practice, but I think I would start out working for another chiropractor and learn a little bit, because I haven't been adjusting for 5 years, so, and maybe there's a lot of change in the chiropractic profession, so I would work for someone first and get some more experiences before I open my own practice.
And you mentioned earlier that you would only want to stick to adjustments, right? Just the physical manipulation. But then you also, I would say, kind of got into, I'm trying to remember what part of the conversation was, but then you also mentioned, maybe been crossed about speaking to nutrition as well. So is that kind of similar to where Dr. Daniels was heading with her question earlier? Would it just be physical manipulation, or would it be kind of also nutritional counseling?
You know, after what I've been through, I feel like I'm so traumatized by all this, so I may not consider it. I don't want to do it. You know, even though I have the knowledge, I don't think it's worth it to put myself what I did for the last 5 years.
Another question. You mentioned visiting Vietnam. Is there any intention to kind of start a business in Vietnam, or is that really just kind of volunteer?
No, I just want to do a mission work because, like I said, I was in a singing group, and we help a lot of orphanages, so I want to do that if I could.
And that's my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Sweet?
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. You mentioned, you talked a little bit about, that this was an embarrassment for you, and I guess my question is more of, what's your understanding of why it's important to not practice medicine without a license?
What's my understanding?
Yeah.
Because I'm licensed as a chiropractor, and my scope is neuromuscular disorder, back and neck pain, and I have to stay in that lane. If I go outside of that, I'll be in trouble again, so I don't want to do it again. I just learned a big lesson.
Do you understand that may pose risks to
Yeah,
the
I don't want to
consumers
take any
as well?
risk anymore because of what I've been through.
And kind of talked about it a little bit, but what's been the shift in the mindset from, because as Dr. Daniels pointed out, and council, there have been a few different instances with the board here. What's been the shift in mindset that would put our minds at ease now?
All this discipline, I feel like it's just too much stressful for myself and my family. And the next part of my life, I try to minimize the stress. If doing this kind of thing put me on discipline, legal issue that involve, I would minimize it, and I don't want to get into it. Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Adams?
So just to kind of follow up in brief here, your chiropractic license, let me just state here what you can do, right? California Code of Regulations, Title 16, Section 302 provides that you can, in subsection 5, a duly licensed chiropractor may employ, can you hear me okay? May employ the use of vitamins, food supplements, foods for special dietary use or proprietary medicines if the above substances are also included in section 405.7 of the Business Professional Code, so long as such substances are not included in material medic as defined. So as a chiropractor, you can use vitamins and dietary supplements and those types of things. Those are within your scope of practice. And just to be clear, you understand that what your discipline was based on was that you were treating medical conditions without a medical license. You were treating, that's what you were treating, rather than saying I'm helping you with these things, you were saying I'm going to cure or relieve or manage these things without co-managing with the medical doctor. You understand that part, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And I think from a protection standpoint, the concern that we have to address, or that, and me specifically for my part, is that you understand the distinction between those things, because I think to say that there's not going to be an opportunity to be in that situation where someone's going to come in and ask those questions and, you know, and seek your help, when you could possibly help and co-manage, to just say you're not going to do it, I mean, I can't see the future, but I think that's, it would put you in a difficult spot. And so I think what I'm getting at is that you understand that you can do those things as long as you're doing it within the scope of the chiropractic practice, and it's laid out right here for you.
Mhm.
Is that, do you understand
I
what I'm
understand
saying
that,
there?
but like I said, you know, I've been so traumatized by all this that I want to avoid it as possible. If there's a Hashimoto that comes in, then maybe I'll talk to Dr. Charles Carpenter, who's in the functional medicine, and maybe I'll refer to him, and if he feels that I can do this and this, I'll work with him. And I'll say, hey, I'm going to support this patient with this and this. Do you support me in this? I will put on my record that I'm going to do this if that situation ever arises. But I would, but for future, like I said, I'm so traumatized, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, I guess what I'm looking more for is kind of the assurance that you understand the distinction between the two situations within the scope of practice and practicing medicine without a license. And rather than saying maybe or kind of, it would be, this is what I'm going to do.
But this is what I'm
If I get my license back and I have a situation where I have a patient that comes to me that either is having symptoms that I see, that you would refer them to this doctor, that you understand that, because it sounds like you can identify it and you've done the study and the work, and that also you can also be there as a resource for them, that you can co-manage it, and you have that, you can do that with your license.
Yes. Thank you.
And that you understand that that's what we're looking for, is that you understand the distinction, that those are things that are emphatic for you, not just maybe, or I don't want to do it, because to say you don't want to do it, in 5 years that could change, and then we don't have any, or 10 years that could change. And at that point, we might not have the ability to follow up with you.
I really appreciate that. Thank you for giving me that assurance. But I think to stay out of trouble, I'm going to work with Dr. Charles Carpenter, who's an MD, who has the medical, the license and background to back me up, to support me, and I would consult with him to co-manage this thing. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
I think that's what we're looking for. At least that's what I'm looking for, is that you understand the distinction, and that going forward, if you're going to be in practice, know your lane, I guess, is for lack of a better term.
Thank you.
Right?
I don't know. I really appreciate that. You give me assurance. I was so scared. Initially, I said, I don't want to do this again, because I was so afraid what I've been through, even though I recognize that you know I have this knowledge, but I don't want to apply this knowledge if it's going to get me in trouble. But now I know from now on, if I encounter this, I'm going to work with Dr. Carpenter to make sure I don't get in trouble.
Well, just let me reiterate what I'm saying. I'm not telling you to do the same thing you did before.
No.
I'm not saying practice medicine without a license.
No,
I'm
I know
saying that,
exactly what you
that
mean.
understand what you can and can't do by looking at the regulations, and understand, because we can, as chiropractors, help people with these things and assist them in that process and co-manage them with their medical provider. And that's highly appropriate.
Thank you.
Does that make, was I clear?
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you.
I'm good, thanks.
Well, thank you, Ms. Nguyen, for being here today, and I appreciate you telling us your detailed story about your past and your upbringing,
Thank you.
your family situation, and surely these are traumatic, situations to be in.
Thank you.
Understanding that, thank you. I just have a few questions. Hopefully they're brief. I think the board has covered a lot of this. I have some concerns about that are seemingly directly related from your testimony so far. And so I'm hoping you can give me answer some questions that help me work through those. And those are related to that most of your causes of discipline were in relation to, other than some of the coding documentation, but evaluation and management, medical decision-making, and quite frankly, some critical thinking that has to go on as one of the major roles being a healthcare provider. And part of that, one of the things that I'm wondering, I'm hearing a lot of kind of vendor-driven continuing education, and I'm just wondering if you've had any thoughts or reflection on seeking other more either nationally or recognized areas of continuing education, especially in the area of functional medicine.
I'm not clear what you're saying. There's a FMU, Functional Medicine University. I've taken some courses too, because I liked this topic at that time so much that I even enroll in that university classes as well. It's an online. I think you pay about I don't ever remember the money, but there's online courses on there, and there's so many segment. So I enroll myself in that.
Thank you. The protocols that you were using at the time, just as was that a course that was approved for CE?
Correct.
Program approved for CE in California?
Yes.
And I noticed going through a lot of the patients here, the 8 patients, most, if not all, were frequently, seemingly routinely recommended 6 months of care, and I think 2 times a week for most of those. Was that frequency duration taught to you through that continuing education program?
I don't remember. I don't remember that part. But I think most of that was taught in the T. Skarazian course, because he was giving case studies, how he was seeing his patients. When they first come in, they had a severe immune attack, so they have a severe symptom. So you want to try to modulate their immune function first to get them calm down.
So that was taught to you in that functional medicine course.
Yeah.
Have you done any other CE since what was submitted to us on September 16, 2023?
Yeah, thyroid. There's Back to Health Chiropractic, the Dr. Tara Rada, and she listed her background as graduate from LACC, Functional Medicine University, a lot of credentials that she did.
You've done that since September of
I even
this
did
year,
it yesterday.
September 16th?
Yesterday at my
Okay.
hotel coming here. I studied. I went through every courses, even though I'm not, I already meet my requirement, but I still study those things. I went.
The reason I was asking is I have concerns that the training that we've acknowledged and discussed here was seemingly the training that got you into trouble, in some ways perhaps, in the functional medicine arena, and I didn't see a submission of other educational opportunities in that area.
I didn't submit it. I did study, but I didn't submit it in here on my own.
Okay. And so I think I'll wrap up. So I noticed, I think my understanding is that the cost, the $15,000 in cost recovery, have you made an effort to reimburse the board for any of that cost recovery?
Right now, I don't have the financial means to reimburse the board, but when I go back into practice again, I would make an effort to pay it all, if I can.
So to date, there has been no effort
No.
to do any cost recovery? Okay. Thank you. I have no other questions.
Thank you. Did you have any cross-examination that you wanted to add?
Just one question, if I may.
Sure. Oh,
So-
did we miss a board member?
I think we
I'm
have
so-
one.
I'm so
One
sorry.
here.
Yes.
Can I just ask
Before
one-
you do that,
sorry about that,
absolutely,
just
let's let Dr.
One really quick
Daniels go.
question. I was wanting to let it go, but it's bugging me. Can you just explain to us your understanding of the difference between a diagnosis of thyroid Hashimoto's and thyroid Hashimoto's hypothyroid?
Good question. From what I learned from Dr. Datis Karasian, if Hashimoto is an autoimmune disease, so if you look at the blood work and they have positive antibodies, that's considered an autoimmune disease. I mean, a thyroid autoimmune disease. Thyroid hypothyroid is a symptoms that result from an autoimmune. It's a condition. It's a symptom that result from an autoimmune conditions. Is it like when their thyroid go into hyperactive, hot flashes or palpitations, things like that.
So in treating, you understand the difference between how a medical doctor would treat Hashimoto's versus Hashimoto's hypothyroid?
Do I understand how an MD would treat? Yeah, patient come in, they told me that they've been put on thyroid hormones and they still have symptoms.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Thank you. Sorry,
Okay.
Ms. Moore.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Nguyen, during the time period in which you were seeing these 8 patients that are alleged in the accusation, what percentage of your patients at that time approximately were you providing traditional chiropractic treatments and adjustments?
You know, my practice consists of personal injury workers' comp, so about 80% of my practice were chiropractic of those, and maybe 15-20% of that is functional medicine patients.
Thank you.
Nothing further? Was there any redirect that you wanted to do in light of any of these questions?
Nothing worth taking the board's time up for. I submit
Okay.
with a closing, please.
And did you want to do a closing as well?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. So we'll have you begin your closing, Mr. Richards.
Thank you. Lawyers always say they're going to be brief. I'll try and be brief. But as I stated in our opening, I think Ms. Nguyen checks the boxes for looking at when you look at the factors to consider and rehabilitation criteria, but that's just box checking. And really the question the board has is she going to pose a risk of harm to the public? That's the board's ultimate function. And I think that Ms. Nguyen's reaction to everything that has occurred, the lessons she has learned, ensures that she will not exceed the scope of her practice. And I think we all appreciated Dr. Adams' clarification, or at least stating of the law, that while she can practice these things and implement some of these techniques, supplements, whatever it is, as long as it's co-treating with a physician who is involved in that. However, Ms. Nguyen has stated that while she understands she's able to do that, and she might be confronted with circumstances in the future where someone asks her to do those things, it is her goal to stick with more traditional, if that means anything technically, traditional chiropractic with neck, spine, neuromuscular issues. And even if she does venture out to some of the techniques and practices she engaged in before and that are enumerated in the California Code of Regulations, she made very clear today in her testimony that she will consult with the board's publications. She can look at the laws which are included on the board's website and contained in numerous resources. She can contact MDs or other licensed folks. And frankly, she also has some legal support from attorneys, if need be, who are reasonably well informed on what chiropractors can do and not. She has a good plan in place for the future if she were to be reinstated, to go work for another DC, and maybe to open her own practice at some point in the future. But the board can be assured that she's not going to attempt to treat or diagnose any medical condition without the direct support and authorization, which she will then document carefully, of an MD. And it's hit home for her. She's paid a heavy price, as does anybody who loses their career. But she's certainly no victim. She doesn't blame anybody but herself. I need to stop turning my neck. She doesn't blame anybody but herself. And she's taken a lot of steps to figure out the mistake she made. She's learned from it. And she will not pose a risk of harm to the public. She'll stay in her lane, as Dr. Adams put it. And I'm optimistic the board will find that she not only has met the criteria, but that she won't pose a risk of harm. They reinstate her license. Folks reinstate her license in one capacity or another. And then lastly, with the administrative issue of the payment, I've spoken with Dr. Nguyen. If her license were to be reinstated, she will create the ability to pay what's remaining. Thank you.
I have one quick question. If the board were to have some concerns about return to practice after 5 years, and they were to ask Ms. Nguyen to take and pass an examination, what would be your willingness to do something like that?
I would do what the board asked me to do, I would do it. Whatever required of me, I would do it.
I'll make sure she does.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe the matter is now under submission, and with that, we will go off the record. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And let me ask our court reporter for page estimate and ending time. $56. Thank you so much. Did you want to go into closed session now?
I think,
Thank you.
I think what I'd like to do is allow everybody a 10-minute bio break, and we'll come back. Let's come back,
11:45. Yeah,
that's
10
only
minutes?
5 minutes.
11:45?
Oh, yeah, 11:45, yes. Let's come back at 11:45, and we are going to come back in closed session.
Thank you.
Thank you.